So it has been 10 years to the day since Tanki X first released to the public. Now that's wild to think about because you have to remember, 5 years after this game released, it got shut down because there weren't enough players to make it financially viable for Tanki to keep the servers open. So not only has it been 10 exact years since Tanki X first released, it's also been roughly 5 years since the project closed, which means there were 5 good years of Tanki X. Now I'd say the last year or so, probably not the greatest because it had already been announced Tanki X was shutting down, so most of the players had left and the only players still playing were playing for the rewards they were going to give to players in normal Tanki Online for still playing the game. Now you can look at the video on your screen, you can just see how this game looked compared to normal Tanki Online. They were remaking certain maps in Tanki X, and overall the graphics had a feeling of a game that could actually succeed far more than Tanki Online could. I think the big problem with Tanki X and why it just never really reached past the Tanki Online player base was that it literally just was a graphical updated version of Tanki Online. However, it had a little bit less than normal Tanki Online. There weren't as many customization options you could do when creating battles. There were only a certain amount of maps in the game, and they were adding new maps all the time. Like, they were making these insane HD maps constantly. They were also bringing new skins constantly. We'll go over a lot of those later in this video. They had different shot effects. They had basically every single thing that Tanki Online had, which was really nice because when a player came over from Tanki Online, they basically had the full experience. However, there were still a lot of things missing. Tanki really needed this game to jump past the Tanki Online player base, but it just never really did. The game lacked a lot of identity only because the main game was doing so well. You have to remember, this was 2016. Tanki Online was probably in the best state it had ever been in. People were loving normal Tanki Online, and a lot of people really didn't see the reason to come play Tanki X. I mean, you can see right here, only 1 year after the release, and we were getting maps like Ares. Some of the most innovative maps we've ever seen in honestly most video games to begin with. It had interactive background. It was kind of just Massacre 2.0 in a lot of ways. You were on Mars. You were literally on an alien planet, or just a planet in general. It was just so cool. You could see dust flying around the map. It was an actual interactive map, something that Tanki's been saying they wanted to do for so long. It was just one of the most innovative things we've had, and you could clearly tell there was passion going in to Tanki X. Alright, so unfortunately, since the game is no longer up, you can't actually see all the skins, apart from here, thanks to Babby for giving us all the skins in the history of Tanki X. Now, it's kind of funny, even though there were a lot of cool skins, since the game was like 10 years old, there still weren't too many videos on Tanki X, maybe another reason toward it not doing so well. Let's look at the Firebird skins. You had tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, basically M1, M2, M3. You had the gold skin, steel, dreadnought, inferno. Pretty interesting skins here. On freeze, you had M1, M2, M3, gold skin, steel skin, and then the frost skin, which was so freaking cool. On Aceta, M1, M2, M3, gold skin, bumblebee, and steel. Steel, I would think, was a skin series for all of them. Hammer, M1 through M3, gold, steel, crystal, glow, rage, and discharge. I'm pretty sure it was just a different upgrade variant of this one, which was just this was such a unique skin. For twins, you had the steampunk skin, which you have in normal Tanki Online, XT and XT Zeus, which was just an electricity version of XT. For Ricochet, you had Frontier Zero, which I'm not really sure what this actually was going for. I didn't actually know this was a skin to begin with, so pretty interesting. For Smokey, you had XT, Defender, Victory Day, and Zeus. For Vulcan, you had this crystal skin too, with the Rage and Discharge variations. For Thunder, you had Victory Day, Dreadnought, XT, XT Zeus. Very cool skins. And again, if this game had more than just like a 1 to 2 year life cycle in terms of actual developments, I think we could have had some of the most unique skins in the history of like any game. For Railgun, you had TSK, Victory Day, XT Zeus, normal XT. For Shaft, you, I guess, didn't really get too many. Wasp, you had Frost, Bumblebee, Dreadnought, XT Zeus. Oh my gosh, Frost was so cool looking, especially paired with like a really nice paint. Hornet, which I think had basically the most skins in Tanki Online. You had a pretty low tier crystal version, a T0, whatever that means. Victory Day, looks like a little ruby look. You have the Soviet star there, the Rage skins, the Zeus skin, whatever this is, B. I don't even know what that means. Hunter, Defender, Victory Day, Zeus, Viking, Zeus, Rage, Victory Day, such cool skins. 2.0, pretty interesting. I think that's where you got the T2 Ricochet skin. Dictator, you had Inferno and Dreadnought. Titan, you had TSK. I think this is like a turkey skin. And then Zeus. And then Mammoth, you had Steampunk. The developers wanted it to succeed. The only problem is they couldn't differentiate themselves from normal Tanki Online because it was effectively the exact same game as normal Tanki Online, just with updated graphics and updated textures. If this game comes out today, I think it would do much better than normal Tanki Online. You have to think a large reason for a lot of people not playing Tanki X is because Tanki Online was doing so darn well. And again, if we had it maybe like even just 4 to 5 years later on, when the player base started dying off pretty quickly, you have to think how well would Tanki X have done if it was made in a different time. And I think Tanki was maybe just a bit too optimistic at the time. Maybe Tanki was really trying to capitalize off the success of the main game. I mean, you have to think about it. Tanki released in 2009. This was all the way in 2016, 7 years effectively after the release of Tanki Online. It's safe to assume 7 years after the game releases, they're thinking of the future of the game. And so they were thinking, oh my gosh, Tanki X, we have all these new ways to make games. Because making games in 2009 compared to 2016, completely different thing. It's just no one really could have known that Tanki Online was going to succeed as well as it did back in 2016. The graphics were just insane. Basically, they were very, very unique. You have to think about it. Like, you think of current modern day tank games, they are nothing like what you see on the screen right now. Like, they are fully realistic. But this was like a realism that you really didn't see in any games. Like, the graphics in this game were truly unique, and you can only just wonder what the game would be like. How successful would it have been if it was made just a few years later? Who knows how well it would have done? I honestly think if this game was uploaded in like 2018, 2019, towards the fall off of normal Tanki Online, now normal Tanki Online did well all the way up to like 2020, so maybe even uploading this game in 2020, these graphics would still have looked very, very good. And again, 2020, you still don't really see these graphics anywhere in video games these days. Yeah, you can obviously find games with similar graphics, but a tank-related game like this really isn't something you see in the current game space. I think this would have done so well if it was just made 5 years later, because it looked like there was actual passion. You can see the map on your screen right now. They called this one Carrier. What a cool map. Jump pads to cross into the enemy's team. Capture the flag on this map was absolutely insane because you had to jump across the map. You could get killed literally mid-air, but you had to jump across the map to get to the enemy's team to cap the flag. It was just so cool. But again, I think one of the main problems with Tanki X was just that at the end of the day, it was Tanki Online with better graphics. And again, since it was so new, it had less to offer than normal Tanki Online did, which is really where it failed. The average Tanki player would play this for a month or two and realize they were kind of maxed out and limited at what they could do. I think if Tanki X was able to continue where Tanki Online stopped getting so much focus, it would have done a lot better. But the problem was the game was almost a failure at launch. I mean, it obviously did well with the success Tanki Online had. It was doing relatively well, but after the first year or so of the game's honeymoon release phase, player base just dropped off to where Tanki could no longer put so much effort into the game. And then after 4 or 5 years, there weren't enough players to warrant having live servers anymore, and that's what caused the game to shut down. I mean, this game had a ranked system, a league system. It was really planning for the future. It just sucks. Like, look at that. Silver League, you got certain containers, you got certain rewards. There were fun ranked rewards in this game. There was a fun ranked system in the game. You got different paints and different skins for the different ranks you achieved each season. It was just so much fun. Now, myself, I played a solid amount when the game first released. And then I played a ton again right before it closed because you were able to get a bunch of free containers in Tanki Online. But to be honest, when I was playing for those free containers towards the end of Tanki X, I actually found I enjoyed the game a lot. But at that point, the game was already officially being closed. There wasn't anything you could do to get the game to stop closing. But man, they had so many different seasons of ranked mode. Again, the game was out for 5 years. That is a long time for a game like Tanki X. And they were giving us seasons all the time, new maps, and even events. Like the Developer Diary 15, from October of 2016, so the first year this came out, we got a Halloween mode, Halloween event in Tanki Online, which is just so cool, man. We were getting insane new skins all the time. Like, look at this Hornet skin they added here. It was literally like a Lamborghini skin that they added a Hornet. It was just so unique and so interesting. And it's kind of like what we're getting in current Tanki Online now, where they're making these kind of new updated skins in Tanki Online. And then for Halloween, you had the updated garage, you had a new map on Sandbox. It was like a spooky version of Sandbox. You can just only imagine what the game would look like if they got the full development cycle every single year. But again, after about a year or so, when the Tanki X numbers were dropping very quickly and very rapidly, Tanki kind of pulled most of the Tanki X team off of Tanki X to work on other projects. They had a mobile game that came out a year or two after this game that really didn't do too well, unfortunately for Alternativa Studios. But yeah, this game really only got about a year's worth of development, and then after that, 4 years of basically nothing. It's kind of like we have in current Tanki, where we just don't get a whole lot anymore. It's kind of just recycled stuff. This was the Halloween map, pretty darn cool here. I mean, even just Moon's Silence was so unique. The HD graphics just matched with Tanki X so perfectly. It's something everyone always wanted to see for normal Tanki Online, was these really cool updated graphics, and we're getting a semblance of that with the new HD maps in Tanki Online, but it just wasn't the same as this. This is just so unique. But in honor of Tanki X turning 10 years old today, and although you can't play it anymore officially, I wanted to make this video kind of paying homage to what the game was. Unfortunately, released during the wrong time in my opinion. Again, you release it in 2020, I think it does really well. It's just unfortunate that Tanki was doing so well that this game never really had a chance to succeed. I'm gonna leave it off with that. Let me know if you guys ever played Tanki X. Were you fans of it? Do you wish it was still here? I kind of do. It'd be interesting to see if Tanki X was still here today, what normal Tanki Online would look like. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about this. See you guys in a future video. Peace out, everybody.